Wow. Thank you so much, David. That was so beautiful and so fitting. Love's love lifts us up where we belong. And don't we need that right now? And climbing every mountain. So glad to be with you here today. I have a lot to say today, but I want to first start with telling you about Sisyphus from Greek mythology. Sisyphus was a king and he did not respect the gods. He stole their secrets. He was a trickster. He was very cunning and he was very deceitful. And he defied death not once, but twice. And so they decided to punish him for an eternity. And he was to roll a big boulder uphill over and over and over again. And every time he would get to the top, waiting for it to go over the top, it would roll back down the hill again. It seemed like there was no meaning in that, no purpose, no certainty. And every time, though, isn't that like our lives? And aren't we trying to push a boulder up here, uphill right now? And then our boulder goes downhill every time we have a mass shooting or a Ukrainian tragedy or whatever the challenges are in our life. The boulder rolls back downhill and we have to push it up again for another. Seems no meaning in that. And yet, that return down that hill is a chance for us to pause. It's our breathing space. So I'll breathe for a moment right now. It's our hour of consciousness. It's our time to be superior to our fate of what's going on in our lives and what's going on around us. It's a time for us to be stronger than that rock, not a slave to that boulder. It's a time for us to have dominion over our thoughts and our feelings. It's a time to go into self-exploration, a time for us to grow in our self-awareness, a time to do self-care. What a concept. Maybe right now, we really need to start be in the space of taking care of ourselves in order to get through all that we're feeling and experiencing, the grieving, the sadness, the anger, the angst, the helplessness, the hopelessness. This is a time for us to slow down and learn about us, about me, a time for us to grow, a time for me to grow, a time for us to be the best person we can be. I want that. I want to be a better person. I do. Do you want that too? It's a time for us to take advantage of that stroll downhill, preparing for new beginnings. And isn't this so representative of our human condition over and over again? Oh, the school shooting in Uvalde. All that we're experiencing around that, we all are. We're all grieving. We all feel the loss. We all feel all the feelings, whatever it is that we're feeling. And that's okay. We don't try to get rid of it. And why are we feeling all these things? I mean, we need to know physical safety for ourselves, for our children, for everyone, for the teachers. We need to feel peace within our hearts, don't we? We need to feel peace within our hearts because I haven't been feeling it. I've been feeling a lot of angst. And I need to feel there's peace out there in the world. Do you feel that too? Need that too? And when there's not, it's just combobulating to my whole system. I need connection. I think we need connection rather than this torn apart thing that's been going on for us for so long. Don't we need connection? Don't we need understanding between rival belief systems, understanding to be understood in our own belief system, to understand others, to understand the why of it all? Why is all this happening? Don't we need to be heard in what it is that we believe and have to say about what's going on? I have a feeling you're all relating to that. Those are all my needs and why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. I have a feeling that you might be experiencing a lot of that as well. So this talk is for us, you, in our mending our hearts and then going on beyond. So there are things we don't need to continue feeling so helpless, so hopeless. There is hope. There are things we can do. And I would like to share some of my ideas on that with you today. We no longer want to be in denial. We don't want to be in denial of the reality of the situation. We don't want to go, oh, that's not happening, because duh, it is happening. We're not in denial about that. But what we want to do is be in denial about the power it holds over us, what we do with it, what we choose to do with it within that situation. So we can choose to take advantage of this time to learn and grow, to do our spiritual work. What does that mean? You know what it means: prayer, meditation, reading, spiritual readings, rest, good sleep, eating right, exercise, preparing for new beginnings, for something that will be happening. We allow ourselves this time for self-care in our grief, and we deserve that. You all know about the book in the 60s, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist in the Nazi concentration camps. And he was noticing, he was also a prisoner, and he was noticing the prisoners were experiencing things that most of us can't even imagine. They were so awful, so horrifying. And he noticed that some of the prisoners tended to just shrivel up and die inwardly and outwardly in the midst of it all. And he noticed that others tended, though, to still hang on and have hope. And he thought, what is the difference there? And there was the ones that tended to hang on tended to look for the purpose and the meaning in it. And it could have been just sitting under a tree and looking at the beauty of that tree and being in that moment, that now moment. It could have been, when I get out of here, I'm going to share with my family and with the world all that happened here, or whatever, dreaming about what they would do when they got out, to use this experience to enhance connection in the world. And Frankl said, we can always find some meaning, even ever so small, even in the darkest of times. Say what? We say, are you kidding me? With these school shootings, what is possibly the meaning that we could find in that? It's just almost beyond the ability to do that. And all of these emotions and doubts and cries that we have, they play an essential role in how we apprehend to the world and respond to the world compassionately and meaningfully, not just from a place of emotion and anger and sadness, but compassionately and meaningfully. You see how the compassion has come about 100-fold. Is that all it's about? But how do we get there, you say? How do we find the meaning? Isn't that too much to ask right now? Maybe it is right now. Maybe we don't have to do that right now in this moment, but at some point, maybe we'll be ready. What could possibly be the meaning to the school shootings? Maybe there's a practice that we might develop of observing without absorbing it into our being. That's kind of hard right now, but maybe a practice of getting into that, observing and not absorbing it, not taking it on. And maybe one answer might be the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah. Reverend Jim Rosemurgy, what's his name? Says this: whenever we act out of grief, anger, and anguish, the results are always lacking. There has to be an opportunity for spirit to get its hands on us. He recommends 3 days of fasting from food, no phones, no alcohol, no sex, no concerts or entertainment, no condemnation, no talk, just holding hands, grieving, loving, waiting, offering our hearts to be mended and our minds to be illuminated by divine spirit. Ponder these things. Fasting combined with a willingness to act on what comes from within us, deep within us. Thoughts and actions that originate not from a tragedy, but from an encounter with God. This is always best. Deferred action that does not come from pain. We can already see how this has not worked. But actions that come from a still small voice. So today, I am a prophet. Not a prophet of doom, but a prophet calling for fasting that fills us to our overflowing with love for our children, and an awareness of actions that tear down the walls between us and heal the nation. Viktor Frankl said, between the stimulus, what happens in our environment, the stimulus and the reaction, how we react, there is a space. And that space is what we can do from our hearts. That space allows us to respond, not react, but to respond slowly. We don't have to go straight from stimulus to reacting. We can go into that space with intention and from divine wisdom, divine guidance, meditation, prayer, being in the silence, even heart math. If you're familiar with heart math is a good way to get quick relief. And if you don't know that, I'd love to share it with you sometime. We can no longer be complacent. We can stop wringing our hands in despair. Stop shaking our heads we can move our feet. We can be the change that we want in the world. It's time for us to mobilize when we're ready. New Thought musician Janice Stanfield said this: I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. No getting around that, folks. There is something each of us can do, no matter how small it may seem. It's like the lotus blossom that is in the world, but not of the world. So its roots are down in the muck and the mire of the pond, rooted in that muck and mire. And yet its blossom rests above the water, reaching for the sun. It's in the world, but it's not of the world. We can be that. We can be that lotus blossom. You can be the lotus blossom. Let's try. We can't deny that now, in the midst of all of this, we're realizing full force what's truly important. All that stuff before that we thought was important that maybe now seems so trivial in comparison, we now realize what's truly important. And we now have clarity about our values, what we truly value. Do you have further clarity about that? I sure do. No longer can we accept what's been going on. No longer will we accept that. I'm talking about a strong commitment. I'm talking about a strong yes and a strong no. No more wimpiness, no wishy-washy. There is a time for gentleness, and there is a time for firmness. No longer denying our anger. We don't deny that we're feeling angry. We're not denying that we're grieving. We're not denying the loss. We're not denying that we feel sad. It is certainly there. We don't deny those emotions. But maybe we put less energy on the way things are, on what we don't want, but maybe more energy on what we do want. And how can we get there? Maybe we want to focus on changes regarding accessibility of assault rifles. Maybe we want to focus our attention on awareness of healing, of mental illness. And maybe it's both of those, not an either or. You want to lean more toward compassion, a coming together, a oneness, a unison of our hearts and our souls, recognizing that we are all in this together, the whole world, not us and them anymore. Do we have to roll that rock up the hill? Sometimes it just feels like we're trying too hard, doesn't it? Sometimes I think we can, when we're ready, choose to find a purpose or a meaning, not to get lost in the distractions. You know what I mean by that. And in each step of rolling that rock up the hill, or even in each step going back down the hill, we can accept the absurdity of it, the struggle, and we can hold our head high because we are not defeated. No more wishful thinking, no more avoidance, of reality. No more victim mentality. Yeah, sometimes we go into the pity pot, and that's okay. We all do sometimes. But I've decided I want to observe when that's happening. And yeah, sometimes I make the choice to allow myself to stay there for a little while because I need to be there. I need the grief. I need to feel like I'm a victim. I need to feel sorry for myself. I need to be on the pity pot. But I have decided most of the time, I really don't want to stay there very long. I want to get past it, but not until I've had the time that I need. Not to beat myself over the head about that. I want to become the master of that rock, of my rock, whatever that rock is, or that rock out there in the world, which I take on as my own. Take it on. I want to get to a point where I can embrace this present moment, this now moment, and face things head on. And that, my friends, when we do that, is a victory in itself. Miley Cyrus did a song called The Climb. She says, the steps I'm taking, every move I'm making feels lost with no direction. My faith is shaking, but I got to keep trying. I got to keep my head held high. There's always going to be another mountain, always going to be an uphill battle. And sometimes I'm going to have to lose, or so it appears. It isn't about how fast I get there. It isn't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the climb, the struggles I'm facing, the chances I'm taking. Sometimes they might knock me down, but no, I'm not breaking. Miley Cyrus, The Climb. It's a beautiful song. Look it up whenever you have a chance on YouTube. I just found this out the other day. I didn't realize that she did this song at a protest in Washington, D.C., I think just last year, at the protest by the group called the March for Our Lives. If you don't know what that is, look it up. March for Our Lives. So Ralph Waldo Emerson, who's he's the father of the Transcendentalist movement in philosophy, and he is the father of, well, he's in the roots of our New Thought movement, our Unity movement. He said, well, there's some controversy over whether he really said this exactly in this way, but he's quoted for having said, life is a journey, not a destination. I did some research on it, and here is what he really said. To finish the moment, to find the journey's end in every step of the road, to live the greatest number of good hours is wisdom. Each step of the journey represents a completion of the journey. Let me say that one more time. Each step up the hill, each step of the journey, and each step down the hill represents completion of the journey. Wow. So are we wrong to roll that stone up the hill in the first place? Is it because of our lack of understanding that we continue to do that? On our part, lack of understanding on our part that makes us continue to do that? Does it have to be that way? And is it a lack of understanding on our part that causes the stone to roll back down the hill and to keep doing that? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like we don't seem to be getting it. Sometimes, for me, it's the same story over and over and over again. You know how it just seems like sometimes some things just never change. I could see a friend 10 years down the road, and it's the same story they were telling 10 years ago and 10 years before that. I've done the same thing. Always the same stone rolling back down the hill, having to be pushed uphill again. We think that life is always needs to be forward moving. And sometimes we think, no, it's two steps forward and one step back down the hill. And I don't know that that's always true. There are advances and there are declines. And some of us choose to roll the boulder all the way down the hill, to let it roll down the hill. In my life, I think for the most part, not always, but for the most part, I have not allowed my boulder to roll all the way down the hill. I've caught it and bounced back, but that hasn't always been the case. And in those instances where I have let it roll back down the hill, I want to do something different. Oh my gosh, the drama of that, of the stories we keep telling ourselves. No, it does not have to always roll all the way back down. All right. Like Sisyphus, do we not have enough reverence for the God that's within us, that's all around us, that's through us, that's as us? Do we not have enough respect for the God within? Like Sisyphus, he had no respect for the gods, defied them every way. Do we put off our spiritual work, place priority on other activities, procrastinate? I'll do that later. Do we use up our time and our energy? So when it's time to go into the silence, we go, nah, I'm too tired. I need to sleep right now. I have too much to do. There's no time left. There's no energy left for that silence where we access and gain glimpses from our sacred source, to be on that higher ground, to see things from a higher understanding. So much we can't understand when we're in our humanness, our ego. In the silence, we gain glimpses of divine wisdom. We gain an understanding, insights, a different way of seeing things. Oh, yeah. We often continue to try use our intellect to stay in our heads to try to figure things out. We do that, don't we? And we just get more confused. In the Revealing Word, which is a dictionary of metaphysical terms written by one of our co-founders, Charles Fillmore, he says that divine wisdom, divine understanding is where we come from the spirit of the Christ within us, the spirit of the Christ energy within us, the spirit of the Christ presence within us. Divine wisdom, divine understanding comes from there. And there's a price we have to pay for conscious attainment of divine wisdom and understanding. Yes, there is a price. What is that price? It's the letting go of our human self, our personal self, our ego self, and its limited beliefs. It's where we allow that human self, that ego self, that personal self to take a back seat to that divine aspect to us. Under the anger, under the fear, under the despair, under the brokenheartedness, there is a radiance that has never been harmed, that has never been lost. That is the truth of who you actually are. We are the world. So it's time for us to just be still. And in preparation for meditation, I'm going to ask David to do a song called God Before Me. And as we prepare for meditation, as we listen to David's song, let's try to think of something or someone that's easy for us to appreciate, something that we can have gratitude for in this moment that just brings a big smile to our heart, to our face. Just get in that space of feeling that appreciation. And I'm going to ask you during and after David's song to just relax, to breathe, to let go, and to ask our hearts what we need to know. Heart, what do I need to know? And I'm going to ask you to be open to receive.